Thank you for coming back, everybody. We're working on our cardboard box, and we've come an incredibly long way. We're in our element graph, and there's actually a few little controls I wanted to add in here before we start exposing some variables to be used inside of a layering project. So let's move some stuff around. I'm going to take this blend here. This is our, just to comment this is our diffuse damage. Or we'll actually rename that and call it ink damage, right? And what we want to be able to do here is just to control how much damage we're actually seeing on the ink, all these scratches and everything else. So there's a really easy way for us to do that. I'm just going to take this blend right here, and I'm going to create a new blend. So that this is the foreground and the background is actually going to be white. And with that as white, what I can now do is plug this into the opacity mask. And if we look at the opacity of our blend node that we've just created, we can now control how much that damage shows up on the diffuse. So that's one thing that we have working for us. The next thing that we need to go ahead and look at is if we're going to playing around with this and its ink and everything else, let's go ahead and see if we can add in some roughness control as well. So I'm going to pull off of this blend here and do another blend. Lots of blend nodes. And instead of this going into the foreground, I'm going to have this go as the opacity mask. And I'm going to delete this connection here. I'm going to remove the defaults for this. And I believe it's setting this to white and then that to black. And then what we need to pay attention to here is how this grayscale conversion node's working. Because if you look at the mode, right now it's set to relative. We need to set this to alpha. So now we get this added in right here, which is really nice. This is exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to bring this down here, and I'm going to blend this in with this one here. So I'm going to pull this off. This is our damage, so this is going to work with our roughness. And then when we control the opacity of this blend, it's going to work with this blend as well. So this is going to go into our opacity mask here. And then this is going to go into our foreground color, and then our background color is going to be our roughness from our prefab material. And we're going to set this mode to be multiply. And I think that I actually need to reverse these. Instead of this being white, this needs to be black. And this needs to be white. There we go. That's more like it. So now if we look at these, we can actually start to control what that looks like. So for the roughness, for example, if white is fully rough and 0 is completely shiny, then we would just take this value here and use that to crank that roughness up. And so in this situation here, we're going to leave it like right about in here. And I'm going to plug this now. This node is going to be now going from where our original roughness was going into our material make. This is going to go now into our roughness. And that's going to give us another grayscale conversion node that we're just going to drag down right here, just so it's right beside that. And we're going to drag this up and drag this up. But how can we now actually see this roughness control playing out? Like you can see as the final asset, now I have a lot of roughness happening there. So if I look at this blend that's controlling our roughness, if I change this color and bring it up, now we're getting individual controlled roughness for where it's being printed. So that's really nice. But how do we give that control back to the artist in a layering project? This is the big core of what this video is going to be about. So let's go ahead and start with that. Let's get our roughness control in play. So let's right click on expose as input parameter, and that gives us a new parameter that we can use. And that is really awesome because now this is going to allow an artist to drop this into their layering project and they can control the roughness on the fly. It also allows you to just open up this element and you have the inputs there right in front of you instead of all these local variables that we've created along the way. But right now it's just named foreground. Doesn't make any sense to anybody. So let's go over here to the top right. There's our graph variable editor. So if we click this, we can change this name from foreground to ink roughness. And we're going to put this in a category of box artwork. And with that in play, we're going to go ahead and save this element. And now we're going to start a new layering project so that we can see this at work. So I'm going to start a new layering project, and this is going to be called Hypercharge Layering Final underscore. A lot of underscores. All of the underscores, right? There we go. Create project without template. And if we go back to our package, we can see that we have our hypercharge box element detail. We're just going to drag that into our layer and give it a second to load, and everything loads up. And at first it's using the default triplanar projection. So if we change that to UV and give that a second to process, everything goes onto the asset just like we had in the element graph. And as you can see here in our element layer settings, we now have our box artwork category and our ink roughness right here. So we can go ahead and just drag this around on to make it really rough or really wet. So let's start working with the actual element graph some more, expose some more input parameters, and see how flexible we can make this for an artist that's going to just pick it up and start working with it. So let's look at the box element detail. Let's go back down here. And this is where we were controlling the damage, right? So let's add this in too. Let's take this opacity mask and let's expose that as an input parameter. And instead of being called opacity, we're going to go to our actual variable editor, and we're going to call this ink damage. That's going to go right into our box artwork category. And we're going to go back to our element settings, and you can see it now added that in, but we have to save it and regenerate that preview. And now we can see that we have ink damage. So with that in play, we can also crank this down. Give it a second to process. And as you can see, all of that damage that we added into the ink on the box is now gone. We have a different roughness value for the ink that we can use. Things are going along swiftly, smoothly, and awesome. Let's try to maybe add in some additional elements of controlling, say, the ink color. So we have that solid color for where we were setting up our mesh decals. Gonna go right here, and where the input is color, I'm just gonna right click there, expose as input parameter, and then make sure that I modify the variable accordingly. So it already says color, so I'm just going to go home, ink, and then I'm going to change this category to box artwork as well. And if we go back to our settings there, we have ink roughness, ink damage, and color. And it looks like if you wanted to actually change the order of these in the category, you can always click and drag the individual variable inside of here, and that will be reflected in your layering project. So right now in our layering project, we have ink roughness and ink damage. I added in the ink color, and when I first did that, it was down here, right? But now that I've dragged this up to the top, if I save this, regenerate the preview, come back to our layering project, you can now see ink color is at the top. So if you need to organize your variables, that's how you do that. It's not something that you would do with like a sort order inside of your variable editor. It is something you do in the actual uh, element settings inside of these inputs that you are creating, where you just drag and drop them. And just as a final wrap up for this video, we're going to also change these logos and allow us to swap these logos around. So let's just say that InstaMAT wanted to sponsor this and Nabro is no longer a part of the mix. Then we could go ahead and let's just take that base color and find it. Select the variable in the object editor. There we go. It's Nabro logo cropped. PNG. I have a lot of broken ones here, actually. I need to go ahead and clean up, so that's a good thing that I stumbled upon this. Anytime you see one of these broken links, just go ahead and delete them. They're no longer necessary. They're something that was from when I have been creating this project repeatedly over and over and over and over again, creating this demonstration for everybody. They kind of stacked up over a while. And I don't need any of these broken local variables, and that really brought that stack down considerably. So that's how we clean that up, and that's how you recognize if you do need to get rid of that. Just hit that little trash icon if you see a broken link. And now we're going to take this and we're going to promote this as an input parameter. So now that's just been moved up here. Let's go up to our variable editor. And this is called Nabro logo. We're just going to call this logo 01. And then this is going to go into box images category. And then we're going to do another one here. Let's go back to this. That is our DCC logo single color cropped. Let's promote that as an input parameter. Let's select it. Go into our variable editor. This is going to be logo 02. And this is going to be in box images. And that is going to get saved. And we're going to regenerate that preview. Now if we go back to our layering project, you can see we have these additional logo 1 and logo 02. They are already set to default with these individual logos. So let's just say that InstaMAT is taking the place of Nabro. Then I'm going to type in Insta and look into the package. And we have InstaMAT and Instalod. That's a pretty good one. Let's use this one here. And now InstaMAT is taking care of this for us. And we're going to change our ink color to the cool kind of blue InstaMAT color. I think it's somewhere around here, right? About that one. That's just a launching point for you. Feel free to expand upon it as much as you want. I'm going to go ahead and expand upon this as a layering project, one last video with some final little bit of touch up, and that's going to be adding in some tape. It's going to be a relatively quick video, and I think you'll really enjoy it, and it's just going to give us that little added zest that we're looking for. So really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and learn more about exposing the element graph to layering projects and making it flexible for artists to use. Thank you so much.